It's the dead of winter, and you're listening to 5 After Midnight. One.
During finals week at college, I left the library pretty close to midnight and decided to carry my laptop to my car, which was a block and a half away down a street. I was completely alone and my phone was dead, but it was pretty well lit, so I figured I'd be okay. As I was walking, a pickup truck driving in the opposite way slowed down and did a K-turn behind me and started following me. I immediately stopped, let it pass, and stood by a lamppost until it made a turn, which was down the street where my car was. I went back to the library and asked a public safety to walk me to my car. As we got closer, the truck that had been following me was idle in the space directly behind my car, and it sped off down the street as soon as he saw me with the cop. I almost didn't go back and get public safety because I felt I was being too paranoid. So take this as a lesson. Never be too paranoid.
Two.
One time, I got a flat tire very late at night, so I pulled into a gas station. I tried putting air in my tire, but the valve broke off as I tried, causing the tire to completely deflate. I was standing outside my car, talking to AAA, when a large, older man approached me. He disregarded the fact that I was on the telephone and asked me if I needed help. A little weirded out, I smiled politely and thanked him, but told him that I had AAA and they would take care of me. He insisted that he would help me and gestured towards a silver car parked in the shadows, telling me he would drive me anywhere I wanted. I again thanked him and told him no. He then said he was there to buy a soda, and did I want anything? At this point, I was fed up and a little scared, so I firmly told him that he needed to go buy a soda for himself, and I was just going to get in my car now. He walked off, and I locked myself in my car, and the dispatcher at AAA, who had been on the phone for the entire conversation, asked me if I wanted her to call the police for me. I told her no, it was fine. God, I was an idiot. I've since learned the difference between looking out for your personal well-being and just being silly about things. Well, the woman from AAA said, "You might not think you're in any danger, but I'm concerned, so I'm bumping you up to the top of the list." We hung up, and I sat in the car, bored. At this point, I noticed my new friend had come out of the store and was standing about 20 feet from my car, staring at me. I thought this was very bizarre, and I started feeling a little nervous. I made sure my doors were safely locked, which they were. Over the next 20 minutes or so, I would take sidelong glances in his direction to see if he was still there. Eventually, he disappeared, and I heaved a sigh of relief. Then, suddenly, I saw him again. He had stepped back inside the store and was crouched behind a window cling, staring directly at me. This was too much. I was fucking freaked out. I called 911. The 911 operator said, "911, what is your emergency?" I explained the situation and that I was scared. "Okay, I'll dispatch an officer to you immediately." I said, "Oh no, that won't be necessary. I don't want to waste anyone's time. Can you please just stay on the phone with me until I get the tow truck? That way, if he approaches me again, I can show him I'm on the phone with the police." "All right, sweetheart. Can you tell me exactly where you are?" And I said, "Sure. I'm at Hess on Colonial. Mercy Drive, it looks like." The dispatcher paused. Miss, I don't mean to alarm you, but I need to tell you, you are currently stranded at one of the most dangerous intersections in the country. I'm dispatching an officer immediately. You need to promise that you won't exit your car for any reason, and do not hang up the phone until either a police officer or the tow truck is there. So I stay on the phone, nervous, but not really thinking anything else would happen. I would occasionally glance back at the store to see if Mr. Creeper was still there, until finally he disappeared. I told the dispatcher, very relieved by this turn of events, when suddenly the man somehow appeared in front of my car. He was walking right towards me, straight into my headlights. He reached down to adjust his pants when, bam! Yes, that's right, he pulled his penis out. I burst into tears and started shouting into the phone with what was happening. I averted my eyes to the steering wheel, not wanting to look at it. Now, since I was looking at my steering wheel, it came as quite a surprise when he appeared at my passenger door and tried to force his way in. Adrenaline is a funny thing. No longer was I broken victim. I was pissed. I started screaming all sorts of obscenities at him. I told him I was on the phone with the fucking police and that they were going to put his ass in jail. I called him a bastard, a son of a bitch, a cunt. The poor 911 operator must have thought that I opened my door to scream at him, so she in turn was screaming at me to shut the door and to wait for the cops. After maybe 3 minutes of screaming at him, he seemed to realize that I wasn't responding favorably to his attempts at wooing the gentle lady that I am. He strolled towards some gas pumps about 10 feet away and stayed there. Several minutes after that, the tow truck rolls in. A gentleman got out of the truck and started heading my way. He noticed I wasn't getting out of my car to greet him, so he pointed at his hat, which proudly stated AAA. He got right up to my car door, and I shook my head violently, refusing to get out. I cracked the door open, and his face changed. He saw that I had tears running down my cheeks and mascara smeared under my eyes. I explained quickly what had happened, nodding towards the man calmly standing by the gas pumps. He had put his dick away by this point. I saw the tow truck driver's face harden. "Did that motherfucker hit you?" he said. He thought the smeared mascara was in fact a set of black eyes. I shook my head no. "Lock your doors and tell the police to get their fucking asses here now. I'm gonna make sure this shithead doesn't leave." I watched him walk over to Mr. Creeper and held my breath, expecting fists to be thrown. Instead, what I saw looked like a very cordial conversation. I found out after that he decided to pleasantly ask directions to keep him. Suddenly we heard sirens. Mr. Creeper wildly looked in the direction of the sound, then directly at me, then glared at my knight in rusty armor. He realized that he'd been tricked. The police showed up, he was handcuffed, and I had to write out the mother of all witness statements. They searched him, and it turns out that he had a crack pipe on him, and that he was currently under the influence of cocaine. It wasn't pleasant, but I'm glad it happened to me, and I was able to get him arrested. I shudder to think what would have happened to some other poor girl if he had gone free that night.
3.
I was in India for work, staying at a fairly nice hotel. I don't do this often. I usually like to head straight to the room and order room service while watching a movie. But I decided to have a drink at the lobby bar. I had a drink on my own. There was no one else around in the bar, and I made small talk with the bartender. I ordered another drink and decided to use the bathroom. I was only gone a couple of minutes, and when I got back, I noticed that my drink, which was a scotch and dry, I had a cloudy white rim at the top, which isn't normally there. On closer inspection, the cloudy froth was settling into a powdery residue on the side of the glass. I asked the bartender what was wrong with the drink, and he at first acted like he didn't notice anything. I was suspicious now, and I kept at it until he acknowledged that he did see something. I mean, it was obvious. There was this froth 2 to 3 millimeters around the glass. He said that that was always there, and always happens when he pours these drinks, and it's nothing. Then I looked at him directly in his eyes and asked, "Did he put anything in my drink?" It's hard to explain, but his response, though it was a no, told me everything that I needed to know. So I made out like I was more curious than anything, and I asked him whether he would taste it. He said no, and that he would pour me another. I declined and said I would drink it, but I just wanted him to tell me if there was something off in the taste or not. All this while, there was this awkward vibe where we both knew that the jig was up, and he was pretending like this wasn't happening. I paid up and left the drink where it was, and I locked and latched my door the whole time, picturing myself lying in a bath of ice without my organs.
4.
From Oregon to Orange County. I had made the drive in one day, and it was around midnight, and I had stopped at a rather sketchy gas station just north of Los Angeles. I was refilling my tank when a strange guy appeared out of nowhere, holding a gas can. The guy gave off an immediate psychopath vibe. He asked me if I'd help him refill his tank. His van was just across the street. I looked. Between the streetlights was a windowless white van. Wondering why he needed help refilling the tank, I told him that I was in a hurry and that I couldn't help him. He said he understood, and I took the pump out of the car and put it back. I turned around and he and the van were both gone. I was so tired I didn't entirely realize what had happened until the next morning. Next time, I didn't stop at that gas station.
Five.
My mom used to commute from southeastern Pennsylvania to Baltimore 5 days a week, about 3 hours of driving a day. One time, late at night, she saw the flashing lights behind her of a police car. While she was confused because she wasn't speeding or anything, she pulled over. She immediately noticed that the car wasn't a Crown Vic or any other standard-looking police car, and therefore she only rolled her window down about an inch. The cop was dressed in blues, but he offered no badge. She asked to see a badge or proof of ID, and he just got angry and screamed for her to roll her window all the way down. She refused to do this, and at this point he yelled that he was going to call for backup and that she was going to jail for non-compliance. She replied that calling for backup would be a great idea at this point, and she continued to wait. He fumed for about another 10 minutes until finally he got back in his car and sped off without further warning. She called 911 from her car phone, and they said that they had reports of someone posing as a police officer and trying to lure women out of their cars. Holy shit. My mom kept a level head and didn't get assaulted by a probably fake police officer. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the show. If you have a story to share, send us an email, like us on Facebook, share, like, and subscribe.